Queensland is on notice as a potentially significant tropical cyclone is developing over the Solomon Islands, which will threaten the coastline in the coming week. Here is your latest update brought to you by Force 13 Australia and Oceania. We're looking at Invest 92p and what it could become as it moves towards Queensland in this video. If you do end up enjoying it, make sure you do subscribe and leave a like on the video while you're at it and tell us how we can improve in the comments section down below. But here is Invest 92p. It is waiting for the name of Jasper, so make sure you are listening out closely on official agencies for Tropical Cyclone Jasper. This storm could be potentially significant. It's got a 95% chance of development at this point. It's basically set in stone that we're going to see a cyclone out of this. It's moving over the Solomon Islands right now, moving due south. It is expected to intensify over the coming couple of hours and days, possibly getting named around tonight, local time, late into the hours of tonight, before starting rapid intensification and peaking as a Category 4 strength tropical cyclone on the Australian scale. And it does have wriggle room to get even higher than that. We could be potentially seeing a storm stronger than Category 4 status into the high-end Category 4, potentially even Category 5, as you'll see right now on the multi-model diagnostics page. The GFS and the HWF calling for a peak intensity of around 105 to 110 knots. That is Category 5 on the Australian scale. Wind shear is dropping right now. Mid-level humidity looking really good for this storm. It has ample time and fuel to rapidly intensify over the coming at least 3 days as it moves into the prime conditions of the Coral Sea before threatening the Queensland coast, where a landfall is possible. In fact, as per some models, it is expected in around 6 to 7 days' time. So here's a look at our forecast map right now. You can see it's a tropical low right now, winds of 45 kilometers an hour, pressure of 999 millibars. It will then rapidly intensify, attaining Category 1 status in the next 24 hours, then 2, then 3, and then Category 4 status indicated by the orange circle in the center of the Coral Sea by around day 4, before gradual weakening is expected before it makes its final approach to Queensland, where a landfall of Category 2 or 3 status is expected in around 6 to 7 days' time, which is in line with the latest Bureau of Meteorology forecast cone. So here is a look at the GFS model on this system right now. We're playing it through slowly to start with. You can see it attains gales in around 24 hours time and then attains hurricane force winds, Category 3 severe tropical cyclone status in around 60 to 72 hours time, before peaking in around the 4-day mark, and then by around day 5.5, day 6, probably what's that, around Monday morning, we'll be seeing a landfall around the Mackay, Rockhampton sort of area as per the GFS run. Now playing it through at a higher pace, you can see widespread gale force conditions expected to exist around the Coral Sea, so boating will be very unpleasant indeed, especially throughout the centre parts of the Coral Sea. So make sure you are avoiding the area if you are on a boat or motor yacht in that part of the world. It is going to then parallel down the coast just slightly inland, and that's where it will become a rain threat. Significant rainfall totals are expected from this system, that's for sure. So let's take a look at the ECMWF forecast run right now. This is a slightly weaker solution, and I'm choosing to play this just to give you the full scope of possibilities. Now this is an example of the storm not making the most of its conditions. It still does get up to Category 3 status as indicated by those purples there, but it stalls, and I think wind shear gets to it by around day 5 as it meanders through the Coral Sea, and then it makes a beeline for around Cairns or Cooktown area, and it does rapidly intensify just before landfall. So either way, we do see a significant cyclone making landfall on the Queensland coast. The main threat right now, however, looks to be the rain, at least initially, especially over the Solomon Islands, with up to a metre of rainfall possible around Honiara, which will cause devastating flash flooding over the coming sort of 24 to 48 hours. But again, this storm does look to be quite a wet one, with up to 12 to 15 inches of rain. That's 300 to 400 millimeters of rain for parts of Mackay, Rockhampton sort of region as this storm makes landfall as per the GFS run, and widespread totals above 100 millimeters of rain. And because it's associated with a tropical cyclone, we'll likely be seeing those rainfall totals happen over a very short period of time as well, getting dumped in this part of the world. So life-threatening flash flooding is certainly possible as a result of this system. But that's enough talk on the storm, at least initially. Let's dive into the multi-model diagnostics courtesy of windy.com. Alright, so here we are on windy.com at this time. We're taking a look at the ECMWF model first. You can see the center of the storm is marked by that low pressure with 1,000 millibar central pressure right now over the Solomon Islands right now. Near gales are actually existing around the center of this system. It's wrapped itself up absolutely beautifully over the Solomon Islands, and it really only has to strengthen slightly for it to get upgraded to a tropical cyclone. You can see that happen sort of this evening, local time, Tuesday evening around 11 p.m. Into the early early hours of Wednesday local time before rapid intensification is likely to kick off. You can see winds around 40 knots at this time around the center, sustained winds of around 40 knots, and then it looks like throughout Wednesday and into Thursday, we're going to see this rapid intensification phase really kick itself off. You can see by Thursday morning, we're going to be looking at winds of around 45 to 50 knots around the center of this system. A significant one indeed, central pressure of 986 millibars. Now, here's where I'm going to swap over the GFS model run, because this is the one that I think is the most plausible right now, considering the conditions that this storm has ahead of it. So you can see basically rapid strengthening takes place from Wednesday morning onwards. You can see wrapping itself up, dropping by what was that, about 10 millibars in just 6 hours of central pressure, and then these winds really do start to wrap themselves around the center as the storm pulls away from the Solomon Islands. You can see that pressure dropping really fast. Ignore the winds, because the winds, again, on the GFS, because it's a low resolution model, it really doesn't get the full scope of the winds, but 955 millibar central pressure, you're probably looking at a severe tropical cyclone at this point around Thursday evening local time, and as it pulls closer to Queensland and into the Coral Sea, we're only going to see more strengthening into the 940s, and that, I believe, drops into the low 940s, 944 millibar central pressure. You could really be looking at a high-end Category 4 strength tropical cyclone at this point. This is going to be a very significant tropical cyclone at its peak intensity. Thankfully, it does look like by around Friday evening, wind shear might get the better of the storm. Still holding on, though, into Saturday, actually, so maybe wind shear, it delays itself a little bit. You can see that is a menacing picture for Queensland. That is a really scary picture for Queensland. Everywhere between Cairns down to sort of Bundaberg, Harvey Bay sort of region, we're going to be seeing those gale force conditions extend onto the coastline. Significant wave heights will be expected as a result of that. And then the storm does start its sort of gradual weakening on approach to landfall, making landfall with a central pressure of 969 millibars just south of Bowen on Hamilton Island. That is, I believe, that is exactly where Cyclone Debbie of 2017 made landfall. So if you want an analog for this storm, it's got to be Cyclone Debbie at this point. Similar track, similar path. It's just not a similar time of the year. This is a very early season tropical cyclone to be taking this sort of track as well, might I add. But again, a significant tropical cyclone, probably of Category 3 proportions, making landfall here anywhere directly south of this system. So at this point, anywhere between Proserpine down to Mackay, basically down to Rockhampton, actually, is going to get this onshore flow of winds. Very strong winds moving south of the system. I'll be seeing significant wave heights move ashore as a result of this. Well, it looks like waves, up to about 8 meters. And the further offshore you get into these smaller islands in the Coral Sea, you're seeing wave heights probably approach 10 to 11 meters. That's about 30 to 35 feet. Very significant wave heights indeed. Significant coastal erosion is expected as a result of this system as it moves towards the Queensland coastline. Because it is going to be quite a large system as well, those wave heights and swell heights are going to be amplified. So basically anywhere on the Queensland coastline next weekend, or this weekend, coming Saturday the 9th, Sunday the 10th, and into Monday the 11th, massive swells are expected. Swimming and surfing not advised because of the dangerous rip currents, so make sure you are being weather aware and stay up to date with the Bureau of Meteorology homepage. Now, rain from this system doesn't look to be a major threat at this time. It doesn't look like it's going to be a significantly wet system. Still, however, rainfall totals approaching 100 millimeters in the 3-hour period as this storm makes landfall are expected, so very significant rainfall totals still, and into the more mountainous terrain just inside of Mackay, that sort of area, we'll be seeing some pretty significant rainfall totals as well. So I wouldn't be writing off anything under 250 millimeters, but it doesn't look like we're going to see the dramatic totals we saw from Cyclone Debbie. I don't think this system is just going to have the strength or the energy to bring that sort of rainfall ashore, but we will be watching that very closely, and that's something that will start to make itself a lot clearer Thursday and into Friday as we get a full scope of how strong the storm actually peaks at. That is going to be very important in this forecast, is just the peak intensity of this system. That will let us know how strong the storm will be upon landfall, the wave heights, and the rainfall totals as well as a result of this system. But right now we're looking at a Category 4 peak, which will probably be a Category 2 or 3 strength landfall. So again, winds could be sustained up to 125 kilometers an hour with gusts up to 220 kilometers an hour as this storm makes landfall. Very significant tropical cyclone that is comparable comparable to Cyclone Debbie of 2017. So we're going to be watching this one very, very closely. And just to close it off, here's a current look at the system right now. You can see some nice banding features starting to develop. This is an inflow band here moving over the Solomon Islands. And this is the really concerning stuff for the Solomon Islands. These intense thunderstorms moving around this system. These are going to deliver some very significant rainfall totals, especially for Honiara once it gets onto this mountainous terrain here. I would like to point out just the vast quantity of rainfall that the Access model is pointing out for the next 3 to 5 days. Up to 1,000 millimeters of rain. Now, do I think that this is going to happen? Most likely not. Is it possible? Entirely. So we're going to be watching this one very closely. Significant flash flooding expected over the Solomon Islands if they get themselves caught under any of these rain bands. But you can see a pretty good looking system really starting to wrap itself up now. A defined low level center through here, and it looks like it's trying to blast some convection over it. So it's really only a matter of hours until this becomes a fully fledged tropical cyclone and it begins its final approach to Queensland, where we'll be seeing a significant tropical cyclone landfall in around 5 to 6 days or so. So make sure you are staying tuned, subscribe to the Force 13 Australia channel, and subscribe to our other network channels as well. Check out the website, check out our Patreon, and check out the Ultimate Fan Club as well. That's the latest from us, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.